Should we do intro? Or should we just get straight to it? What's up? Hey. So we just got back from Wellington. There was a festival of first New Zealand Game Awards and a game festival called Play by Play. We exhibited there. Our whole team was over there, and today we're over at what's the town called?
Featherston.
Featherston.
Yeah, Featherston.
So we're in Featherston. We're with Aurora44, creators of Ashen. And what's the population of this town?
We said 1,200.
I think it is. I think it's actually going down.
So like literally the only game developers in the city.
Maybe, we don't know. I mean, it's not like we've gone around and asked every single person and say, hey, do you develop games?
So how many people on the team?
There's 10 people on the team, but there are...
10. So that's 10 out of 2,000.
Yeah.
It's a good
It's a good
ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, and also Allan from Chromacon.
Yeah, I'm indie developer. I run an independent arts festival called Chromacon up in Auckland. And I'm also here with just attending Play by Play, which is really interesting for me. I guess both as a game developer as well as a festival and sort of indie advocate. So it's really great.
He runs events and gonna take inspiration from everything.
Yeah, we actually. I mean, I probably shouldn't. It's not even an announcement, but it'll be amazing if we could work together next year because obviously Play by Play is in Wellington and Chromacon next year will be also in April, but in Auckland. So
and you wanted to. Last year we did Chromacon as one of the two games that was exhibiting, and you wanted to do more games as part of the...
Yeah, because our focus is really on creative independence as opposed to a specific art medium or subject matter. So our audience definitely appreciate more variety and diversity in the types of creative projects that's being shown. And I also a professional freelance illustrator for a long time, and I know a lot of obviously artists and animators, and many are very interested in sort of developing games and collaborating with game developers and programmers. So it's all happening.
Yeah, and speaking of creative independence, you guys are indies.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Yeah, good. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. Of course, it was a bit of an adjustment at the start, I think you could say. Coming
Just
from
lifestyle,
from lifestyle.
The opposite end of the spectrum. We both, at the time, were working at Weta Digital, so it's very much a larger studio to work at, to go to just the two of us at the start, and then slowly build back up. But
so what was the leap of faith like? Yeah. Like that moment you decided to just, you know what, let's...
I feel like it was a long time coming, actually. I don't know, for me it was.
Yeah, we thought about it and we planned it for quite a while, even though it was only 3 of us doing it at the time. So we hadn't exactly orchestrated the hugest team in the world, but we'd still just sort of planned it a lot. We'd taken time off work and gone and kind of prototyped stuff, and we'd spent a lot of time in our spare time.
So it wasn't quite a leap of faith, it was a calculated move.
Calculated move,
Because Weta Digital is like a dream space for a lot of artists here in New Zealand and all over the world. And a lot of people might see that as but you gave us such a cool job. And
I wouldn't want to be misleading and tell you that we had any prospects or anything leaving either, though, because we had nothing locked in as such. The only thing we had was that we were making a game, so we hadn't spoken to anyone business-wise, marketing-wise, anything on that sort of end of the spectrum.
Just want to make a game and then we'll learn that stuff afterwards.
Yeah, pretty much. As we go. Yeah.
So did you guys work on games before?
Yeah, we have actually. We both worked at a previous company. It's now called Pickpock, but when we were working there,
She.
So we've known each other for probably about 8 years now, I think.
Yeah, we started out. Leighton sat behind me on my first day or something like. We were more or less in the same pod. There's one person of that pod missing. I don't know who that was. Was that Jamie?
No, that was Simon. He's on too.
What, Simon was in there?
Yes.
Okay, our entire team.
I can't remember actually, so long ago. Anyway, there's most of our team in a single pod, and so it's kind of funny that we started kind of at a company and then we all left and went separate ways, and then somehow come back together again to work on it. So,
what's the prospect of creating your own indie game? The reason to do that, or was it Ashen, like the project that was actually the spark to
I think the
embark on this journey?
Ashen was definitely the spark, right? I don't think we ever wanted to, like, it wasn't the act of, okay, let's make our own thing. It was thinking about Ashen and then being really excited about Ashen, and then we were like, we really want to make this now. Let's put all our effort behind it. The fact that it's independent and it's our own thing, it's kind of, it almost comes secondary to like just what the game is, really. Yeah.
It's interesting because like when we started as a team, we started with a whole bunch of prototypes, and it was not so much about which game to make, but rather we wanted to make games, and then something emerged out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was almost our spark, right? When we were still working at Weta, and we both started talking about how there wasn't many games that we wanted to play around, and then we kind of
at the time,
at the time we really wanted to play something, and there was just nothing that could satisfy either of us. So we're like, well, let's talk about game ideas, and we kind of both went away and then pitched the same kind of game idea to each other, and that's kind of the spark. We were like, okay, cool, we both want to make this game, and we just slowly developed it over time, right?
Yeah, it's kind of changed over time. At least it did at the start. It hasn't changed in about 2 years now, though.
It's been pretty fixed. Yeah, we had some ideas in there.
You mean as far as like the design of it?
The overall concept, the bigger ideas. You know, like I think the fact that there's no sun in the world wasn't even in the initial pitch. That was something that we figured out.
We kind of figured out throughout the world creation, that side of things. Yeah.
I think it's because we sort of built the game first looking at the environment and trying to build a world that was interesting. So a lot of our early iteration really has been that, and actually the gameplay that's followed has been a lot more streamlined as a process, just because the bigger sort of iterative decisions and stuff that were being made early on were made based on the world, and now it's kind of like all forced down this one path of like our gameplay and all that kind of stuff kind of flows from there quite easily. It's kind of quite easy to lock in now.
Yeah, it's definitely like for us, I guess it was the gameplay came first, and then the world was built around it. And everyone has their own kind of methods and building a world and then populating them with characters and the kind of
like
life
you two both obviously come from a very artistic, like visual aesthetics are very important to you both. So like, would you say like that was a big sort of inspiration to start like Ashen, to envision the world of Ashen from a visual perspective?
I think naturally you do what you're kind of good at to start with, at least. Like, you know, how to like, we're both big on like world story, and I think we both kind of talk to each other in terms of what games we enjoy, and it's always getting immersed into a world. So our first thing was always make a world, you know, like, and then we had the skills to do it, so it's like, well, let's focus on the art and kind of use it as like a point to then springboard off and form other ideas like gameplay and you know, boss designs and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of just been our starting point, really. But
I think that's most people would definitely agree that that's one of the most iconic things about Ashen, draws people in the most. So
because you got your trailer and the sky creature comes in. You cut it afterwards. But I want to know
what happens next.
It's made things like trailers quite easy to make because we've got some big sets, you know, you can play with and things like that quite early on.
Nice.
How do you find the just being so remote from like the bigger cities or the communities? Because for us, for example, community and being able to come to a meetup with us, you know, dozens of other developers showcasing games, giving feedback and stuff. For us, it was kind of a big catalyst with the GDA, but I don't assume there's a community that's...
we can't build our own community, really.
We've sort of leveraged a lot of the people that we've known in the industry, or at least like leveraged our connection with just existing connections to be able to like work with people or talk to people about the game. And I think though moving out to Featherston was interesting because a lot of the guys, at least a lot of people don't seem to care. Maybe it's just game developers, but like as long as you've got like a good internet connection and you've got a comfortable place to live and maybe like, you know, a shop down the road.
But is anyone on your team has like a family, wife, girlfriend, kid?
Oh, yeah,
that made the whole sacrifice of moving here because
well,
not
Derek's
everyone.
married, so he's
Right.
like,
yeah, I've got a wife and she commutes into Wellington every day.
Okay.
But there's just a train in, sort of 50 minutes, I think.
Because not everyone would be willing to make that.
True,
You know?
and it's definitely you sacrifice a certain lifestyle by living here, but you also gain something else. I mean, I think the initial idea that we had is we kind of like zen out and kind of like not be in the rat race for a little while. And
You're just
that's
like
why
super focused. There's
yeah,
no
and
distractions.
it's a great way
literally
to focus.
nothing else to do but work on the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's like game developers in general, right? You live like your lifestyle is your job. I don't think you ever go away from work and switch your brain off from game design or anything like that. It just doesn't happen. So
yeah, I mean on the way drive down like up to Featherstone, like all the going through the mountain passes here, like the massive
talking about that and being like, but if we did this and this and that inspires all this conversation about design.
A bit of that's gone into Ashen.
I'm pretty sure we've gone over that same mountain pass. It was when it was really foggy that time, and we were talking about like, fog in Ashen needs to do this, or this is how we can make things dark and scary.
Yeah,
like,
that's interesting. We were talking the exact same thing while we were driving, and like because it was quite foggy and like atmospheric perspective.
Because the sun was quite overhead and it was really diffused light. So.
Yeah, like you don't have to have like a million trees to make it look like a beautiful forest. I mean,
it's all about silhouette and shapes and colours and all that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I remember flipping through The Witcher, like the first Witcher art book, and like you just had so many photos of abandoned castles and stuff. I guess like right next door to where the developers were in Poland.
Yeah,
it's like you can definitely tell why they made The Witcher. Because you just walk outside and be like, there you go.
Yeah, I heard those guys also went on like a tour or something of a whole bunch of castles.
Yeah.
Probably, They did a lot of reference gathering, so
it
would have helped. But
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, so moving out to Featherstone, it's been quite good actually. Very comfortable. I think it also gave us a lot of freedom, which is kind of nice. We don't have bills to pay really.
We do have bills.
We do have bills, but they're so small that there's very little pressure in terms of paying rent and doing all those kinds of things. We can have quite a big, nice house and be in a comfortable space and have enough space for everybody to just kind of be comfortable and focus on games and making games, which is quite good.
That house right there. Like in Auckland, we're paying 3-4 times the price for rent.
Yeah, and you guys grew from like, did you say it was 3 people three of you initially?
Yep.
And now it's like 10.
Yeah, now we're at 10. Yeah, of which I think how many of us are on site now? 6.
6 now.
So we've actually got 2 houses in Featherstone now.
Right.
We're starting to take over.
Spreading. Slowly make us into the game developers
hub
of New Zealand.
Build your own airport as well. Do you have teams working remotely for you?
We got single people, working at home, and kind of this guy in Wellington, Tower, and
which roles?
Animator, 2 artists, and a programmer.
So we've got people in Auckland, we've got people in Wellington.
It's all over.
How do you find managing the team remotely?
It gives an interesting dynamic to it. There's a lot of Skype calls, a lot of like screen sharing, a lot of paintovers. It is different than working in studios. I mean,
you can't point at screens.
Pretty much, a lot of there's a lot of I guess almost discussion that goes on. It's quite hard to do online. 100%. So you lose a little bit of that kind of studio environment, but it still has its benefits. And then people are where they want to be, as well. So like if they're happy and they're working, then that's the main thing, really.
It's about that balance.
Because we got a programmer, Gordon. He's doing AI for us. And, taking care of some of the platforms specific stuff for Xbox, and it can be hard to gather all that stuff we kind of talked in the passing or have noted to each other because we're always in the same place, and to relay it and relate in time and have the kind of conversation going on that keeps everyone up to date.
Yeah, I think Ori and the Blind Forest, the whole thing remote, like every team member is remote. So I wouldn't mind talking to you guys.
So is Studio MDHR who did Cuphead.
Yeah, we actually got to meet those guys at E3 last year, so
that was...
They hung out with both of them actually.
They're pretty good.
And, or like the Cuphead guys and the Ori and the Blind Forest guys, but I haven't spoken to them about how exactly they pulled it off to work remotely, but I should. Yeah.
It's kind of funny, you actually meet these guys and you think you ask them a lot of developer questions, but what happens is you can't just hang out and just start talking about random stuff, and then suddenly it's like, alright, probably should have asked you an important question, but you know, too late now.
Actually, this really brings me to a question, which is, it sounds like you guys have grown quite organically, but at a rather good pace, because you haven't gone out of scope, or anything. At least it doesn't seem like it from my point of view. So do you have any I guess based on your experiences so far, do you have any tips for people who might be working professionally right now, or even just wanting to go independent? If they do have an idea that's quite big scope like this, what would be a good way to go about it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to your support network and what you can do. I wouldn't necessarily do something this big if I didn't have a good support network at the time. And I think on top of that, though, certainly starting small and just like getting one person on and then getting another person on like a few months later is way better than just tripling your team immediately.
Right.
Just the bandwidth of bringing people on, teaching them the company culture, which sort of just happens organically, but if you tripled your team, your company culture would just change to some new random thing, I guess, because 2/3 of the people would just be new. So I'd certainly think that doing it slowly, not being in a rush if you're going to do something really big, because Rome wasn't built in a day. Just the old saying. It's just, particularly we're making quite a huge game for what was initially a team of 3 people. That would have taken us 20 years or something like that if we stayed at if we stayed at 3 people, So what we initially did, though, if we just rushed through it, we wouldn't have the same thing that we have now. So we just kind of, it was quite tricky to kind of hold the line and just work on something that was quality and something that we believed in. But I'd definitely say just go slow and figure out ways to make it happen. Sometimes that means changing the scope, I guess. Other times it's going to mean that you get support from other places, or somebody believes in what you've shown because you've kind of very genuinely gone in and tried to make something good, or try to achieve at least a small piece of this big thing that you want to do. So I would say that'd be my best approach towards it. And I'd be hesitant, even now we're looking at, when we have an opportunity to expand our team, it's always better to bring on 1 or 2 people at a time. I think even not just from the company perspective, but from their own perspective too. I think getting enough attention from everybody to be able to integrate, instead of sort of feeling like, a whole farm of people just came in, So I think just having that more personalized approach to hiring people is kind of good.
Nice. Yeah, I think you mentioned before as well that, having like 10 people now, you'd be able to do more work like in a year than that you might have worked on for a couple of years in the past. But that's really interesting. Like, how have you gone in terms of deciding you've sort of just between 3 people, you've sort of defined like the core mechanics and sort of the main feel that you wanted to go for before bringing on other team members, or that this is okay to show to potential publishers or investors or all that now. Like, how have you decided on that? So this is where we want it to start.
Yeah, because we're artists by trade, I guess you could say, or at least coming into it we were. It's been a few years now, so we're a few other things now too. But I would say that the best way to go into it and to, I've just completely lost my train of thought right there.
What was the question?
was it a visual thing for you? It's like you see the visual side, and then I guess when it feels right, like that's.
I think because we were artists, we definitely we wanted to get the feel of it, and you can do things in a lot of ways to get a feel. You can do it with music, you can do it with visuals, you can do it with gameplay. Some people will do a really tight grey box kind of thing, and it'll be not necessarily visually pleasing, but the gameplay will work. Whereas for us, we went much further down the visual road, so we built a world and made sure that looked good. And it was kind of just when we felt that it felt good. It was kind of quite a holistic sort of thing, where you just looked at all of it and you felt like you could run around this world, and that was an interesting thing to show off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be a very grey area in terms of like when you think the time is right.
Right.
Yeah, how to show things.
I think it would be different for every game as well, right? Like it depends on the type of game that you're making. Like for instance, like Sorty, like you guys are doing a lot of public stuff in terms of hands-on kind of stuff, which is perfect for your style of game, because that's what you want to like get feedback on. Whereas with Ashen, we're very quite, I guess, private in terms of what we show. But it's because the experience that we want to give people, we want to make sure that when they see it, it's the first time that they see it, you know, and they actually experience something new, and they feel like this is cool. Like, you know, like that's what we want to get.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I think a lot of people talk about how like that's almost what's been lost from the more recent Dark Souls releases, because when when Demon Souls and Dark Souls came out, there just wasn't that many people playing it, so you had that like really
loss of that
mystery side of things, and even smaller communities kind of like finding out different things every day amongst themselves. And now you'll see it just promotionally, like you see it everywhere online. You can't really avoid it.
It'll be on big sites like IGN will have like their walkthroughs with every item catalogued, you know. So
but that's a change. I remember when I played Demon Souls, and I think even back then wikis weren't really like a big thing.
Right.
And so like game guides were still a thing, you know, like so like you actually had to go to physical print and like check things up. And it's a little bit harder to find information, so you had to actually try harder yourself rather than just first step go to a wiki,
but
find out how to do this.
There's still that beauty of your community putting together the wiki themselves. Like they discover things and they log it, and everyone confirms, oh, that was my experience as well. So
yeah, I can confirm that I haven't found that. Well, the PvP builds are starting to come out, but they're not very refined yet. You know, so
the Dark Souls 3.
The Dark Souls PvP ones.
Yeah, is that something you guys want? I mean, going back to the previous thing, is that something you guys want to maintain, like the secrecy, like the mystery? And
I mean, you can't help it once the game's released.
Right.
Everyone's going to be on it and dissecting it. That's just naturally what happens. But I think up until that point, the more that we can keep hidden under wraps, like we definitely just want people to find that like that first playthrough and actually experience something new that they haven't already seen.
Because I mean, like people do sort of criticize even like Hollywood for being so secretive about what they do and not showing stuff, but
well, unless you're like Batman or Superman trailer.
And
it's
like,
just a very short movie.
And I think it's I think some things should show more and other things shouldn't. You know, it's just it just depends on what you want to give people to experience.
That's interesting. I guess it's almost we're discussing if it was a similar vein in terms of if it was filmmaking, like the film language. It's I guess the structure of like whether it's 3-act structure or so I guess in this case it's more like a slow boil in terms of like that whole experience. So you don't want to give away all the popcorn moments in the trailer, type of thing.
Yeah, if you want to taper like the climaxes or like. It's even with Ashen with us and keeping things quite grounded in reality, we want to make it so like when something big does happen, it is actually quite a contrast change to like something else that happened in the game. So it's not a constant explosion after explosion after explosion.
Right.
So I think pacing is definitely something that we're quite strong on as well.
It's similar to we talk about it a lot, I suppose, because also we're just visual people. Is we talk about it like a painting. If you're doing an environment painting, you're not necessarily going to want to put your biggest, brightest thing just everywhere. You need a lot of place for the eye to rest. So we do a lot of that, I guess, is what Leighton is saying. And it helps you get contrast, but then also if you were to put that one little piece of contrast or that one interesting part of your whole painting into a trailer, it's kind of kind of ruined the surprise of the painting in the first place, So it's tricky because also I know even going back to movies, like if I know I really want to watch a movie, I do not want to see any trailers. I just turn them off. I don't want to see any of it. So the trick for us is really to show people enough that they're going to buy into it, that they're going to be interested in it, but just not enough that it's going to ruin the surprise or that it's going to ruin the mystery of the thing.
It's going to be a tricky marketing campaign.
I imagine it would be much easier if you had like something like Dark Souls, like once it has the pedigree of the previous two, then people know that.
They know what to get into really kind of they just want more Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with ours definitely we've kept it quite secret, and then people are still guessing what sort of game it is, and we kind of like it to be like that right now. People are still kind of interested and wondering, and then making up their own stories into what it could be. I mean, they could also come back to us and they could be expecting an MMO or something completely different. It's like, well, you know.
True. Yeah, that could be tough. It's like, so, you know, something like Gone Home, like people thought it was like a horror game. And obviously, if you give it away, what it actually is, then that's kind of ruins the point. But then you gotta try to entice people into buying it as well. So so I assume it'll be easier next time you guys make Ashen 2 or something.
Just let's make the first games.
We're
working on right now for now.
Focus on the first one first.
It's actually had really interesting questions to follow up what we've been discussing, which is, I guess, a lot of times trailers are giving a tease, and I guess the best way to do that is just kind of incorporate a lot of the beginning of a game, because that's kind of the introduction anyway. I mean, I know Dark Souls the demos have always just been the first section, and that's it. So, but you know, I think a lot of times, like, people don't pay enough attention to the ending of a game, especially when you're promoting a game. But obviously that's quite important, and you know that's kind of where the climax is, and you know leaves the lasting impression. So, like for you guys, like, what if you guys have any thoughts about how broader experience that you want to wrap up something so much about emotion?
Yeah, you mean like for the game itself, not for trailers?
No, for the game itself, like.
Yeah. There is actually an interesting sort of story, but we can't really say much about it. It is something very different, I could say. But yeah, if we told it, it would kind of ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, true. So, but there is something. Obviously.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
It was sort of one of the first. Oh, it wasn't really one of. It was a very early thing that we thought of. Yeah. There's certainly a twist to it, and our focus with story has also very much been on making kind of branching paths. Where if you do one thing, it kind of changes the other path too. It doesn't.
So is there multiple endings?
No, but I can say we I think the traditional way to think about it is almost like you choose what's behind door number 1 or door number 2, right? And so you're getting the content behind door number 1, so you've got to play it again to get the content behind door number 2. And the way that we sort of think about it is actually more like, if you go on path A, path B will change too, but it'll change differently to the way it would have changed. So
multiverse.
So the content's always there, and if you go the other way, you'll see a different, your world will change in different ways, but it's not necessarily that you're denying the content on this other disregarded path. This path will also do something that you'll be able to see and kind of do something with. So that's kind of how we think about it in our story.
Do you have a dedicated writer?
I do most of it right now.
Still keeping it pretty low key on the writing front.
I mean, I think it's interesting to mention a writer and games writers, because I certainly know that writers have their place and can be very good for very narrative games, even like ours. But at the same time, I think that games have their own voice too, which are different to written word necessarily, which is why we try to steer away from written word as much as possible in the game too. We try to do things with actions or choices as much as possible, because it's an interactive medium. So for us to do it with game design is kind of a challenge too.
Well, I guess that's what I mean by writer for games. It's not just you create a script and then you go. It's more like the backstory of the world, and the progression and what are the challenges and NPCs.
I'd say that's pretty much my job in that case. It's effectively the way we design. But every day all of us are coming up with ideas. I think we're all like a bit of an idea generation factory, in that we sort of encourage everybody to have a say about the design or to put things forward. So there's kind of organic story happening all over the place all the time.
Cool. Nice. So that sounds good. I guess it's getting late. We still have a 9-hour drive back to Auckland.
I don't envy you guys at all.
So it's getting cold.
But,
I think going down.
We're all pretty big fans of Ashen, so definitely looking forward to playing it.
Seeing more. Secret. Well, we did play it. We did play it over there a little bit, so we've seen some stuff, but looking forward till to release, which is no announced date.
Nothing yet. No.
Nothing yet.
Oh,
it's a secret.
Yeah, so it's another secret.
Yeah.
It's like an onion, just layers of secrets.
Nice.
But, yeah, we'll have to brush up our sortie skills too, to be honest.
Yeah,
to play a whole lot more.
We could challenge you guys like sortie versus Ashen teams, you know. Because you do team match, right?
We will have team modes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hope I just don't announce something that was not supposed to be announced.
No, we're working on some team modes.
Okay, cool.
You guys should have like a Ashen cameo costume.
Yeah.
Get like
Cool.
a
little hatchet in there from Ashen.
secret unlockable.
All right.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you
Well,
guys.
thanks,
It was good to see you.
Yeah.
It's an awesome setup, and we'll
Hopefully be able to drop by some again in the future.
Yeah, keep in touch.
see you guys up and up.
Yeah, we'll have to